Hey guys, welcome back to Home Built, and today I'm going to delve a little bit deeper into my running issues on my 680. Alright, so before I get into some of the ideas I have about my running issues, I'm going to go over some of the things that I was doing last week. Now, what I did is, a lot of you saw that I'm trying to set up this carbon canister, and some of the eagle-eyed of you noticed what I did and a big error that I made by removing this large line that goes back to the fuel tank. Now, I was thinking that was a breather line, and in some ways it sort of is, but what it actually is more for is for when you fill the car up. And they brought up a very good point that I would have major issues filling the car up, because the way the fuel bowser generally works is you, when you're filling up, the nozzle, as you know, clicks off. That's due to vapors and the fuel coming back up the nozzle. Now, if I'm trying to fill the tank up and the air can't get out, then the nozzle's going to keep clicking off all the time. I'm going to have real issues trying to fill the car up. And that's what this big line actually did, is it actually sort of returns the air out of the top of the tank as I fill it up so that it doesn't click off all the time. What I actually realized is that this overflow line, this just sort of drops down and sits down under the car and just, I think is basically there just if you overflow the tank, or it's the vent line to get you fresh air into the system. What we will do is cap off that and plug that into the carbon canister. So that's my job now, is to refeed in this line and connect up my carbon canister. So then that is another thing ticked off the list. All right, so I've been thinking for a while now about some of the issues that I've been dealing with the tuning of this engine. And what I'm going to realise is I've been changing jets and doing all that sort of thing, and a lot of you are mentioning that it sounds like the timing is out, and I think it goes a bit deeper than that. One of the things I did notice, and it should have triggered me straight away, is that changing the jets and things like that hasn't actually changed individual cylinders. Basically, some of these cylinders are always running hot and some of them are always running cold. You know, so in other words, some are running sort of rich and some are running lean. That I tested along the way with a digital thermometer. I can test each exhaust, and some of them are running sort of down at sort of 55, 60 degrees, whereas some are running up 130 degrees. And it was the same ones whatever I did. So what I'm thinking it must be is, and I'm hoping this is the case, is my valve lash. Basically what I'm thinking is that the car has sort of settled out and the valves are now not all opening at the same amounts. I did check it all and I did go through it when I built the engine, but as I said, the engine has run a little bit. It's probably settled out a little bit. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to pull it all apart, pull the rocker cover off, and go through and check all of the valve lash and make sure that it is all nice and even and where it's supposed to be, and we'll see if that is my problem. Fingers crossed that it is, and then it runs perfectly. That's the plan anyway. Let's go. All right, so I'm going back to basics here. I'm going right down to making sure that everything is exactly the way it's supposed to be. Instead of guessing where top dead center of the piston number 1 is, I've actually got out my dial indicator and I'm going to test it with that. Basically, if you don't know what this is, basically it's just got a pin in it that goes that moves in and out, and as it moves in and out, it will read how far it moves on the dial. And really what I want to do is get the piston to move slightly and find the center point, basically the very top of the movement. That's the plan. So let's start seeing how it works. Well, after doing my check, I'm happy that my balancer down the bottom is exactly on 0 and I'm exactly on top dead center, so I'm happy with the timing there. I'm going to look now and see and make sure my, my cam is exactly at the right spot. So from my measuring, that is my mark for top dead center. So you can see it's probably 2 degrees off of 0 on that mark there. You can see that in there. That's the timing mark and it's just off of center. So I'm not sure if it's worth, as you can see the cam is very, very mildly retarded. I'm not sure if it's worth moving it over to number 2. There's basically markings on the cam sprocket of 1, 2 and 3 and they each advance the timing about 4 degrees. Apparently it's for when the chains get old, you can keep you can move them on to the next one as they're getting a bit looser to sort of tighten things up again. But obviously if you're going to do it properly, you just generally replace the chain. Either way, now I'm going to go through and see if I can check all of the valve lash and make sure the valve lash is what it's supposed to be over all of the cam lobes. Okay, delving into things a bit deeper, this is the book that I use to rebuild the engine. I think it's a common one to be used. The issue is, I found another inconsistency. So in the front of this book, it shows the wrong timing sequence, the wrong firing order. And, sorry about the rain. And in this here, it actually shows the incorrect valve lash. And this is what I used. What they've actually done here is they have reversed their figures. So that should be 0.20 millimeters or 0.008 inches. And they've got it around the wrong way. Same with the other measurement just here. So that may be some of my issue, but either way, I have already noticed that I am too tight on this first cylinder with the measurements that are correct. So I'm going to have to adjust my valve lash. So to help you guys out on what's actually going on here, valve lash is the measurement between these things here. These are the rockers and the cams. This is the cam lobes. Spin around and push the rockers down onto the top of the valves and make the valves go in and out. And the valve lash is between the base circle of the cam lobe. So you've got the lobe on one side and the base circle on the other. You should, when it is on the base circle, so this, the front cylinder is at top dead center. So both of these cam lobes are both facing up or off of the rockers. It should read on the inlet valve, it should read 0.08, and I can't get the 0.08 in, and it should read 0.010 inches on this one, and I can't get them in. So these are already too tight for what they should be, and I did notice I worked further down, and there's some that are good. So obviously that could be some of my issue here, is that valve lash is all over the place now that it's all settled in. So let's start adjusting the valve lash and get the valve lash exactly the way we need it to be. Well, that was interesting. I had quite a few of these valves that were very tight. They were tighter than the smallest feeler gauge I had, so they were very tight. I've gone through, I've readjusted them all, and there's some clearance there. There's some lash now. So time to button it back up and give it a start and see if it's actually made a difference. Okay, so I've closed it all back up again. I have double checked everything. I took the opportunity to also change over the spark plugs. I went 1 degree colder or 1 number colder on the spark plugs. These were a BP6 ES. I've gone to a 5 ES, which is more recommended, going 1 colder when you're doing a few performance mods to a car. And that's the one that the engine builder recommended. So I've gone through and just changed them over. I don't think that will make a huge difference here, but hopefully this valve timing was what was giving me the headaches and the valve lash. The time to start it and try it and see if it runs any better, and also see what it sounds like, since I did that exhaust mod last time and I didn't show you what it sounded like. So the next thing I need to fit to the car to make the engineer happy, but it's something that I need to do anyway, and I was planning on doing, is put a fuel pump shut-off system into the car. I did have it set up with a fuel pressure switch on the other side. I removed it because it was leaking at the time, but also a lot of you said that with those extra brass fittings, the vibrations and stuff, the brass can fail over time, and then you snap it off, oil goes everywhere, and you're sort of stranded with the car. The suggestion that the engineer actually gave to me was using one of these. This is just a LPG shut-off switch. It's a peel safety switch, CP30, and basically what this does is it's designed for actually LPG cars, obviously, but you can just wire it in. It does the same thing. The only issue is that this runs off of the ignition, so basically it reads the coil, and as long as you've got spark, the fuel pump will run. The trouble is then when you want to start the car, you may need to, it won't actually start the fuel pump until you're actually cranking over the engine. And if you want to sort of top up the fuel first, you can't do it just with the key. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect this in, and I'm going to have just a little button in the dash, just connect up a momentary switch which bypasses this, and just so you can sort of prime the pump just while you're holding it, just for a couple of seconds you can hear the pump prime. Basically, to set it up, it's really easy. It's got 4 wires. One goes straight to the ground on the car, any earth. You've got the negative of the coil connects into one side. You've got 12 volt switched on the key on another post, and the last post is the positive power out to the fuel pump, which I've already connected up here. It's run into the inside of the car with a fuse on it, so that's all ready to go. So it's going to be relatively straightforward to set this up, so I'll just start connecting it up now. Okay, so I have some wiring to tidy up, but my safety switch is mounted in behind the grille of the car. All pretty simple, just wiring into the coil. I still need to finish off a little bit of the wiring that's left over inside the car, just connecting that switch up. I'm actually connecting that power through to a relay in the car to send the power to the fuel pump with a fuse and that bypass switch I talked about. So that is all getting done. It's not quite finished. But I am out of time, so I think that means it's time for Fun Facts with Mrs. Jeff.
Hey guys, An interesting case of suspected cheating took place in the 1985 Ivory Coast Rally, when Audi was suspected of swapping an entire car. Michelle Mouton's Quattro had developed serious engine problems and her car was expected to retire at any moment. However, to the other team's surprise, she set off on the next stage of the rally, followed by her mechanic in a very similar chase car. After a lot of lost time, Mouton emerged from the stage with a miraculously cured car, but strangely, no sign of her chase car. The official explanation was that the issue was not a damaged cylinder head, as had first been thought, but an oil pump which they had managed to scavenge off the chase car. That was perfectly within the rules, but the competitors suspected that the car she was driving was actually the chase car, and they had just swapped the body panels off so that the chase car would look like the original car. The car was inspected by officials and cleared, but more suspicions arose when Mouton later retired from the race, claiming that her car was falling apart and was unsafe. This was especially strange, as her car had been specifically strengthened for the harsh African conditions of the rally, whereas the chase car had not. Okay, Jeff has said that he's done stuff today on the car that I won't understand, so he's going to tell you all about it, because assuming you will understand more than me. Thanks, Jeff.
Well, what I did today is I went and I adjusted all the valve lash. You know what I'm talking? Yeah,
absolutely.
You know all about valve lash.
I know all about it.
So
many a time I've adjusted a valve lash.
Yeah. Anyway, as you saw, the car does seem to be running a little bit better, but it's still running like a dog. But it's
I really like dogs, and dogs run really fast. So I think that's a good expression.
A pig?
I like pigs too. It's just not
running
very well.
And anyway, it's going off to the dyno on Monday to hopefully they can work out what I've messed up and why it's not working, and we'll get it going properly. But anyway, that's
new
it.
T-shirts for sale,
New merchandise
underneath, so you can buy it just underneath the video if you'd like to. Just click.
Yep.
Pretty cool designs. Thank you to Bowral and Cass.
Yes, Louis.
For his awesome, amazing design work.
Thank you. Yeah. As always, you want to watch the videos a day early, Patreon is the way to go. Just follow the link in the description. And
please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys.